section of the agenda. Item 2.01, recognition of the John Young Middle School Lego robotics team. Is there somebody here?
Yes, we are.
We're here and we're hiding them.
Where did they come?
I'd like to introduce you to the John Young team, the UFO, or also known as the Ultra Frantic Octopi. They chose their own name, as they do every year, and designed their own shirts, as they do every year. And so my name is Maureen Gatzko, and we have Tammy Burns over here as well. We both have been working with FL teams for a number of years. Tammy's got 2 or 3 years on me, but it's been combined over 10 years experience. So we just kind of want to talk about how the program got started, what's kind of happening currently, and then the future of the program. So these kids have literally given hundreds of presentations over the years. So it's first day of school. I told them I'd give them a little bit of a break. One did volunteer to share some things with us, so that'll be coming up next. So the first thing, maybe. Okay, sweet. So First Lego League is a group of kids that are, so there's 120,000 participants worldwide. There's about 40,000 teams that participate in 1,400 events, and it includes 98 countries. First Lego League is scored and judged based on 3 criteria. The first one is the robot game, where you build a robot made of Legos. You program it to autonomously perform tasks on a board where you earn points. You also have a project portion where you're presented with a theme and a challenge every year that the kids have to solve a real-world problem. And the third part is their behavior. So part of their presentation is having to do challenges in front of judges where they have to build a Jenga tower, but they have to do it under these really strict criteria, and they have to do it in a certain period of time, and they will judge you based on how your Jenga tower is built. Judges generally walk around competitions, and they'll be taking note of the kids' behavior the whole time too. So not only do you have to build a robot, speak with experts, but you also have to be friends while doing it, which is a good skill. So the first Lego League at Mishawaka started in Twin Branch. That was the first Lego League teams. They were started by Dr. David Bertoncini, who was just a local parent. There was 2 teams and 18 kids. It was kind of a grassroots beginning, and it has always been started and maintained by parents. So the early goals of the program within Mishawaka were creating STEM opportunities that didn't exist before. A big thing that I talked to Dr. Bertoncini about was encouraging girls to be involved in scientific endeavors, and the idea that building robots made of Legos is not just for boys, which is often the case. When I was at Twin Branch yesterday trying to recruit people for the FLL teams, every girl that walked by, I tried to snag her and come play with this robot. So. And then one of the earlier goals was also what's called an added value kid, which is the idea of catching kids early that may be in situations where they're not, have a great home life, they might have some sort of disability. There's some sort of challenge that kid's facing, that giving them this opportunity is going to make it so that they can add value back into the Mishawaka school system. We may be saving kids by giving them these types of opportunities or realizing their potential for things later in life. So there's just some really quick statistics. Some of them we couldn't, we were trying to remember. This is just a really quick snapshot of kind of what it has looked like over time. Recently, we have teams all across the school system at Hums, Twin Branch, and John Young. Historically, they've also been at Beager and Lissette, Liberty and Lissette.
It's LaSalle for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just kind of like a quick snapshot of what we've been working on. So one of the big things that I've discovered this year was that siblings are the gateway to success when it comes to First Lego League programs in Mishawaka. So how many of you see one of your siblings in one of these pictures? Yeah, so we have 3 here. 2 of our kids here are not here tonight, also have siblings in these pictures that were on some of our First Lego League teams. We also have one of our baby members down there in the pink. Right there. She's now a freshman in high school. I think she was in 3rd grade in that picture. Here's some of our kids from this year, over the years as well. And you can see in the corner there when they were just in 4th grade. Now this is them going into 8th grade at the bottom. So they have been putting a lot of time and effort into this program. As you can see, they've been doing it for a while, and there's a couple more of our old school pictures of some of our team members on there. We have 3 of our current team members from this. It was an all-girls team that we've done before in the past. We got a couple team members there too. So the benefits of First Lego League, so you get to do consultation and research with experts. You get to learn some engineering principles and learn there's multiple ways to approach and solve any issue. Teamwork, as we talked about earlier, it's literally essential. You cannot excel in this program without teamwork. It is just a score that you cannot fake. It's just something that you have to, has to be organic, and the judges really notice that. There's also exposure to complicated scientific ideas. We get to go on a lot of field trips, oftentimes to Notre Dame, and we're talking to experts over Skype, and travel, exposure to other cultures. We'll get into that a little bit. So one of the first big opportunities that Mishawaka got to do was go to the World Championship in Detroit for First Lego League. It was an exposure to a lot of different things. So there's 53 US and Canadian teams, there's 53 teams outside of North America that are there. There's 70,000 people at this event, and all of our Mishawaka teams have got to go in 2018 and 2019. It's largely due to Jessica Mann, who in 2017 got a really frantic email from me stressing out about some things involving First Lego League. I'd never met her, but me and Tammy had reached out to her, and she drove through a snowstorm to our state tournament in Detroit with her husband to come support us, even though she'd never met us. And while she was there, she said, I want your kids to go to see a world tournament. I want them to see what it's like to play on a big field and to have that opportunity. And so we did it, and she made it happen. And we've done it for the last 2 years. And I think doing that was a large part of the inspiration that helped us get to Arizona this year, just to kind of see. So when I talked about the project challenge and the research that we have to do, this year was have your team identify a human, physical, or social problem faced during long-duration space exploration within our sun's solar system and propose a solution. So in doing so, they had to interview experts, they had to present to experts, they had to have a folder worth of a year's worth of research that proved who they talked to, what they did, what their sources were. This is what they came up with. They came up with what's called flex sauce. And it is condiments that are the texture of a fruit roll-up that you can take into space so that you don't have to take liquids. And they thought of that all themselves. And it was awesome. Yeah. Yeah, and it's very spicy. The sriracha is unbearably spicy. So here's some of our accomplishments this year. We earned 2nd place out of 20 teams at our local competition that was sponsored this year at Discovery Middle School. And also ran by David Bertensini, who started the program in 2009. So we finished top 5 at our state competition out of 48 teams. We won Best Project, obviously, for our flex sauce. The kids did great at their presentations. It was a really, really good day. We also have rebuilt our robot a ton of times. It's the most successful season we've ever had. And then getting to a national competition was one of our goals, largely in part because we were exposed to what could be at the Detroit competition. We also handmade over 1,000 buttons to pass out at our competitions. And the kids here, between all of them, have a 32 years of combined experience in FLL. So, yeah, so they've worked very hard. Let's see what else we have here. So just some examples of some opportunities you get to have when you do this. This was us at the Cinder Lake Crater Field in Flagstaff, Arizona, where every single person who's ever walked on the moon has trained. And it's also where they train the rovers. So that was a really fun experience. It was very hot. We also got to see the Lowell Observatory, where Pluto was discovered, and the idea of universal expansion was discovered as well. So we got to learn a lot about that. And then here's us at the Grand Canyon, and only one of the, out of all of the kids that went had ever been there. Many of us had not even ever been on a plane. So this was a truly amazing experience that wouldn't have been able to happen without Mishawaka's support. And this is the kids just playing some games with other team members there, having fun. And there's us with an adorable Korean team. Or Hong Kong, I'm sorry. There was another Korean team's right there. And just started our international competition there. Cheering on our team. That's your new John Young Lego coach right there. We're teaching him how to cheer people on at the robot table. And here's us with our sweet awards, which we took second place. I'll go back to that. We took second place in the robot round, and then we also won the Spirit of Discovery Award, which is basically kind of a reflection of who was the most well-rounded team at the competition. So here's our welcome home, which we were so excited and pleased to have everyone there welcoming us at the bus. And so just to finish up, there's just some future opportunities for First Lego League at Mishawaka. So this year, Tammy and I are doing the inaugural year for the Junior Lego League at Twin Branch, which is ages, it's first through third grade. So one of the things that we're kind of trying to move towards is having former members who are moving on to FTC and FRC at Mishawaka High School. How can we turn former members into coaches and mentors for our younger kids? Because it's hard to retain parents a lot of times. It also is sometimes difficult to get teachers, because teachers I know are already working sometimes 2-3 jobs. So we would love to have a system where we have our kids turn around and help mentor the younger kids. We also would like to create a feeder system that creates a pipeline from junior FLL all the way to your FRC teams to help retain talent and make success more likely. Making Mishawaka a destination school system for robotics. So how do we involve as many schools in Mishawaka as possible? How do we recruit and retain coaches and kids? How do we stay competitive while we're still having a good time? So continue to strive for added value kids on as many teams as possible, which also requires support and resources for children with special needs, because we don't want to just not include anybody. And then going forward, class of 2023 and onward, robotics 1, 2, and 3 will fulfill a CTE pathway towards graduation. So, yeah, so that's what's going on. And I know this young gentleman would like to speak a little bit. He could. He's awesome. So, it'll be great.
I just want to start off by saying thank you to the board members for having us here tonight. And my name is Lucas Larson. I'm an 8th grader. I had first day of school today. Pretty exciting. Great. I'm on the soccer team. I play baseball. I'm on the Spobble team, and I run track. And I just want to start off by saying thank you to the Mishawaka School Corporation for allowing us to go on this amazing trip. Like, I'm just a kid from Mishawaka, Indiana, and I got to get on a plane, meet an astronaut, see the Grand Canyon, and compete with my teammates against some of the best robotics teams in the world. I also want to thank the coaches for making this team better, and possible for hosting the practices at their house, providing us snacks, and giving us support over the years. My 4 years in FL have definitely been an enjoyable experience. I really enjoyed the fun part of FL, like competition and working together with my teammates to solve challenges and make new ideas. And if there was one thing I've learned from my FL experience, it's that winning isn't everything, and having fun and the experience with your team is. In the future, I plan to take everything I've learned from my FL experience and take it into my life and job someday. And once again, I would just like to thank the Mishawaka School Corporation for making this a once-in-a-lifetime trip. Thank you.
have just a quick correction, because it doesn't quite grasp. There's actually over 400,000 people that participate, kids, just in the FLL program alone. That's not the FRC and the FTC or the junior FLL. So when they're competing at a national and international level, they're competing against almost 500,000 kids out there around the world, and these teams are competitive, very, very competitive. We are actually in one of the most difficult counties and one of the most difficult states in the country. So for Mishawaka to succeed, you know, we shouldn't always think of it as trophies. We should also think of it as what the kids gain out of it. And so if we don't bring home a trophy next year, that's not the end of the world. What is important is what the kids are getting, and they certainly got a lot this year. So.
I remember back in 2010 sitting, I think maybe it was at Twin Branch when the first team made its first presentation, and thinking, wow, this is really cool. I'm anxious to see where it goes from here, and wow, you've really got a long way. This is a really impressive program, and I especially appreciate what you say. It's not all about its winning, it's about what goes into getting into the competition and being competitive. And you know, what you've done is very impressive. I'm really impressed by your strategic plan. I mean, that's mirrors what we're all about here, is continuous improvement, and it's terrific. You know, congratulations. Look forward to seeing more.
I too just want to say thank you. It was a pleasure to be there when you returned home that evening and see your excitement, and we're very, very proud of you, and obviously for winning, but even more so for how you represented us and how you represented your families and yourselves. You're a real credit to our school district and to your families, so thank you very much. We're very proud of you.
I'd like to say that in a time when we worry about not just our youth but even adults spending too much time in a computer or on their cell phone, this is the type of thing that helps you think outside the box. Teamwork builds creativeness, communication, all the things that tend to lack in those other things. And to be able to draw from the older students as leaders is what I think Mishawaka is trying to do at every level in the school. And I think it's a great idea. I wish you the very best.
I think you guys are highly impressive. Those students alone, I mean, your public speaking, I look forward to high school with you. You're exceptional, and to the teachers, the people who lead. I mean, it's a commitment, and it's been a commitment for years. And the fact that you are building on their skills and you keep making successes warrants to you guys as well. So congratulations. It's not always about the win, but you guys are always winning, it seems. So, and always doing great things. So keep up the hard work, and highly impressed with all of your students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll move on to comments and questions from the floor. Item 3.01, representatives of the PTA. Is there anyone from the PTA who'd like to address the board? All right. Move on to 3.02, representatives of school employees. Okay. Item 3.03, representatives of the Mishawaka Education Foundation. I know you have a lot of news to report.
That's exciting.
So thank you very much for letting us for letting me represent the Mishawaka Education Foundation and report to you on all the exciting things going on. And welcome back to a brand new, wonderful school year. I am Lori Sanders Doherty, and I've been on the Education Foundation for 7 years, the last 4 being a secretary. And I'm getting kicked off this month because I've exceeded my time limitation, so I have to go out for a year. But I'll be back. Anyway, so if there is somebody here tonight, we have a lot of new people that don't know what Mishawaka Education Foundation is about. primarily we raise money to go to funding for classroom grants, robotics, Legos. I know we've given to all of these things over the past few years. So that's what we do. We're always looking for new people. There's several ways to get involved. You don't need to be on the board. We need people to help with our events. We need funding, anyway, lots of, so, I know Jane Wright, our executive director, has been meeting with teachers all week and promoting the payroll, what do we call that? Payroll deduction campaign. So if you're so inclined, please sign up for that. That helps a lot. But now on to the big fun stuff. All right, two big things happened. Last week we had our second annual Chip-In for Education golf outing. It was at Morris Park Country Club. Our net that we brought in was $64,500. That's before expenses. But big thank you to Shar Spiker for sponsoring and chairing the event. There were 28 teams. They had a wonderful day. They had lunch, appetizers, prizes, Chick-fil-A, root beer floats, and huge thank you to everybody that sponsored, everybody that participated. And those funds that we raised are going to the academic teams and also classroom grants. So hopefully we can help with more robotics. Anyways, and then the last thing that I have to talk about is huge thank you to Holly Parks. She has much influence, and she got an RV company, an Elkhart Grand Design RV, to donate a brand new RV, which is now parked at the Mishawaka Alumni Plaza. MEF is going to sell raffle tickets for $50. We're going to sell 1,000 tickets. And on October 17th, it will be at our Growing the Future silent auction and dinner. We're going to pick one lucky winner. There is talk, and I'm pretty sure this is going to happen, there's also going to be a cash, if you'd rather have cash than have an RV, because not everybody's an RV person, but there's going to be a cash option for that. So we have to see Holly with tickets. I understand are being printed. They're not quite available yet, but Holly's going to be selling 1,000 tickets. Also at our dinner and silent auction, we're going to be honoring Dr. Dean Spodker and his dream team, which is Mike Pettibone, Dr. Staley, and Bill Welling. Jane Wright is accepting auction donations right now. And this week, our link is supposed to go live for the silent auction. So we'll see if we can get that going. I think that's all. That's it. But thank you.
Well, thank you, and we are just so incredibly blessed to have such a wonderful education foundation. You do so much for the schools, and we're just so appreciative of what you've done. And I think Mrs. Parks is selling tickets after the meeting, so stay around and get in line here. How many have you sold already now?
I've already have 350 committed.
All right, so they're going fast. Moving on to item 3.04, general public. Mr. Strawn, you've signed up to speak.
Mr. President, school board members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Strawn. I reside and own property at 305 George Street, Mishawaka, Indiana. I have no group affiliation. I am not a vendor, a contractor, employee, retired annuitant, or creditor of the school city of Mishawaka or any of the school city's vendors. Before I speak to tonight's agenda, I have 4 general questions. 1. How many ADM count days are required for the 2019-2020 school year, and when are said count dates? Question 2. What was the final Mishawaka High School graduation rate reported to the Indiana DOE for the 2018-2019 school year, and what was the non-waiver 2018-2019 graduation rate reported to the Indiana DOE? Question 3. Has the Community Accountability Committee, an exclusive creation of the school city of Mishawaka, ever produced a tangible written work product that has been formally presented to the school board in an open, regularly scheduled school board meeting? If yes, please provide the details of such a document and a date of the presentation or presentations. Question 4. Has Mrs. Jessica Mann or her successor prepared an annual report for School City of Mishawaka academic teams for school year 2018-2019, similar to what Mr. Huppert has done for School City athletic teams? With respect to tonight's agenda, I have the following observations and questions. Item 9.06 regarding the annual renewal of agreement with the Elkhart Career Center for the ensuing school year. Question 1. How many students will be attending the Elkhart Career Center in the 2019-2020 school year? Question 2. What is the total net cost of the agreement with the Elkhart Career Center for the 2019-2020 school year? And question 3, have you performed any trend analysis for the last 10 complete school years in terms of the total number of Mishawaka High School students serviced each school year and the total associated annual costs? I'm concerned that School City might not be getting its money's worth of quality CTE services from the Elkhart Community School Corporation, as only 2 out of 320 students from the MHS class of 2019 graduated with a technical honors diploma. Item 9.06. Recommendation to approve independent consulting agreement with Spiker Fields and Associates, Inc. I have noted the proposed contract has a period of performance with an explicit start date, but no explicit date certain expiration date, thereby constructively making this contractual document an agreement in perpetuity. Generally, contracts in perpetuity are against public policy. Observation 2. The proposed agreement is devoid of specific contractor performance standards. The contractor should be held to the same or higher performance standards as any other administrative employee of the same classification as employed by School City. Observation 3. There is no stated contractually required formal periodic School City review of contractor performance. Given the magnitude and timing of the cash payments to the contractor for professional services, it is strongly advised a formal scheduled review of contractor performance take place every 90 calendar days, with both the contractor and the entire school board present at such reviews, plural. Observation 4. Item C5 and C8 in paragraph C of the description of services appears to be the contracting out of inherently governmental functions of specification creation, specification selection, and possibly the inclusion or exclusion of discretionary terms and conditions of any future invitation for bid or request for proposal documents. This is a very bad business practice and might be prohibited or severely regulated under the Indiana Code. Such contractual terms may have anti-competitive effects at the prime and subcontractor levels and could result in unnecessary cost increases to School City of Mishawaka taxpayers. Item 9.10. Recommendation to approve agreement for professional services with
Abbott Marsh.
Abbott Marsh?
Abbott Marsh.
Okay, thank you. Consultants for the MHS Traffic Safety Plan. After reviewing the 2 PDF attachments to this agenda item, I have the following 3 questions. Actually, that's 4 questions. And 2 comments. Question 1. Does the $229,700 total include any amount for contingency fee for possible future change orders? If yes, what is the incremental dollar amount of the contingency fee included in each price subtask? If no, then what is the total dollar amount of the contingency fee? Question mark. I have personally seen general contractor construction contingency fees on recent local Mishawaka construction projects stated at 10% of total costs. Question 2. Describe the process by which Avonmarsh, I'm going to have to practice that, reviews and selects its subcontractors for this project. How is subcontractor past performance evaluated? Recent school city experience with managing general contractors and the first-tier subcontractors has caused some consternation in the recent past. Question 3, is Avonmarsh aware of the existence of construction-related consulting services provided by the Purdue University Local Technical Assistance Program relative to roadways? Question 4, has School City of Mishawaka considered using an independent, disinterested, technically competent third party to review all construction-related documents relative to the 10-year master plan? If not, I strongly suggest School City take such an action. It may cost School City little or nothing for such a review. Comment 1. Only $78,000, or 34% of the proposed $229,700, represents direct, get your hands dirty construction services, with the remaining 66% collectively representing office labor. My turn. Given the absence in the cost estimate of the contingency fee, plus by Avonmarsh's own admission that the $229,700 proposal specifically excludes any dollar amounts relative to filing, permitting, and advertising costs, the final total for the project could well be in excess of $260,000 or more. Given Avonmarsh has now monetized each major task in the work breakdown structure, I recommend the proposal be de-scoped to include only those tasks directly identifiable to the most immediate pressing need of construction of an interior security vestibule at the west entrance to Mishawaka High School, and leave the balance of the proposal for consideration at some future date. I further recommend a second public community-wide meeting to be held to discuss the specifications and costs associated with the de-scoped requirement. And lastly, comment 2, I trust Mr. Newman will give in writing the Indiana Bond Bank the right of first refusal in any future bonding action that may be conducted by School City of Mishawaka. That concludes my questions and comments for this evening, Mr. President. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Mr. Strawn. I believe some of your questions may be answered as we proceed into the agenda. Item 4.02, approval of bill warrants and payroll. It is recommended that the bill warrants and payroll in the amount of $6,012,364.44 be approved for payment from the appropriate fund. Item 4.03, approval of financial report. It is recommended that the financial report dated June 2019 be approved as presented. And item 4.04, approval of consent agenda. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the consent agenda as presented.
Move for approval of consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving into reports and discussion items, item 6.01, the June financial report. Mr. Newman?
Thank you, President Curry, members of the board. Being that it's the end of June, I thought I'd go through the monthly financial statements a little bit more in depth, and certainly feel free to stop me at any point if you have any questions. But starting with our education fund up there near the top, state tuition support, within the budget order, I had estimated $37,910,000. And if you shoot over to the right, you can see as of June 30, we've collected just under 50% of that. The other items up there in the revenue, student fees, interest, earnings, miscellaneous, and then of course the transfer to operations. I always underestimate student fees, interest, and other miscellaneous charges, so those are exceeding what I budgeted, which is a good thing. But overall revenue is pretty much spot on, right at 50% as of the end of June, so no surprises. I knew what the student count was going to be when I built the budget, and currently in 2019 anyway, it's at least year to date through June 30, it was the same count date, so I had a bit of an advantage. I knew what the revenue was going to be, that's why it's so accurate. When we get into next year, we're going to have multiple counts. It's going to be a little bit harder to pin that number down. As we go down the document into the expenditures, salaries and wages, I had estimated $21,158,000. Just over 50% as of the end of June, which is actually a little bit higher. I would normally like to see that around 48, 49%. But again, it's hard to really predict that number 14 months out. So benefits, again, we're right in that range. We're at just under 52%. Professional services, and then so on down the line, property services, purchase services. Again, those are a little bit harder to predict, but again, they're all well within the expected amount at the end of June 30. Total expenditures with just over 50% in terms of my total budgeted amount. So again, the revenue, the expenditures are pretty much right in line with what I would have expected them to be. And then the education fund down in the lower left-hand corner, we started the year with $4.1 million in the education fund. At the end of June, we have $3,564,154. So again, we're seeing a decrease in our cash balance as of the end of June, which is fairly typical because our expenses sort of fall off in July and August, and you see that balance come back up. We had quite a few teachers elect contract payoffs at the end of June, meaning that they can elect to be paid out their final 4 pays on their contract in June. So that's another reason why the salaries and wages is a little higher than I thought it would be at this time. The next fund is the referendum operating fund. So up at the top in the revenue, local property taxes are in our budget order. It's $1.7 million. And we've collected roughly 54% of that. Again, that's pretty typical that we collect over 50% in June and then a little bit less in December. So that's pretty much right in line with where we were thinking. Other taxes, student fees collected, again, those are small amounts of money. But overall, we collected 55% of what I had estimated in the budget order. Down in the expenditures, salaries and wages, we're at 52% as of the end of June in the salaries and wages category. Again, a little higher than I had budgeted, but certainly not out of bounds. Same thing with the benefits. You'll notice supplies and utilities and capital outlays is a little weird in terms of we spent quite a bit more on supplies and utilities and less in capital outlay. That's due to a change in the budget code structure. They changed around some object codes on me, so what I budgeted is 700 object codes, now we're charging them 600 object codes, so that explains the difference there. But as of the end of June, we're at 33% as it relates to what I budgeted in the budget order. And that's to be expected with that large transfer of $400,000 hanging out there that we won't do until the end of the year. Ended June with $905,569 in the operating fund. Again, that balance has gone up, but keep in mind we budgeted to transfer $400,000 at the end of the year into the revenue. Debt service, everything's right in line in terms of the appropriation, in terms of the payments that we've scheduled out for the year. No big surprises there. Same thing with our exempt debt service. Just a reminder, this is the last year for our exempt debt service. And these payments will revert into the debt service fund in 2020 and moving forward. But same thing, no surprises, paying the debt as they're scheduled. And again, with the revenue hanging out right around 54 to 55%, and that's pretty typical that we collect more than 50% in June. And then the final debt service fund is the referendum capital debt service fund. Again, no surprises, just paying that debt as it's scheduled, and the revenue went up there 54%. Our operations fund, up there at the top in the revenue, local property tax dollars, I had $3.2 million in the budget order. Operations fund is different than debt service funds. It's not a protected fund like debt service is. So circuit breaker losses are realized in the operations fund. That's why that percentage is 45.85 compared to the debt service that is collected at about 54. That's because the circuit breaker losses, the property tax caps, are realized in the operations fund. So we will not collect $3.2 million in this fund. It will be closer to about 2.5, 2.6 when it's all said and done. We have circuit breaker losses in 2019, and again, that's what's going to shoot up quite a bit higher in 2020, those losses in that fund. Other taxes, right there about 54% where we would expect them. Other miscellaneous revenue that has come in, and then again the transfers from the education fund. We budgeted $8 million at the end of June. We would of course transfer $4 million at this time. Down there into the expenditures, salaries and wages, we're at about 49%, which is right where we would expect to see them. Benefits, I must have budgeted those a little bit high, at 47% at the end of June. But in total expenditures, we're right there at 49, just over 49% as of the end of June. The operations fund year to date, we started January 1st with just under 1.4 million, and on June 30 we've got just over 2 million. So as I kind of had stated as we were going through the budget, when I landed on that $8 million figure, I kind of thought, hey, maybe that's a little bit high, and so it's probably about $500,000 too high right now if I were to guess. I would like to ride it out and do it through the end of the year, and then we'll adjust when we do the budget for 2020. We'll lower that amount. We've got too high of a cash balance at the end of the year. The next fund is our school lunch fund. Again, that fund just keeps on looking better. It's a credit to Peggy and her staff. There's no budget order when it comes to school lunch fund, so the way I set up this page is I compare it to last year. So that column on the left-hand side is what our 2018 actual was, and you can see all our revenue. We're trending up, which makes sense because we receive a little bit more money from the federal government every year to cover those costs. And then down in the expenditures, our salaries and wages, we're a little bit, obviously we gave raises out last year, so to see our salaries have grown compared to 2018 makes sense. But again, the main factor as we started the year with $579,000 in this fund. As of the end of June, you've got $816,000 in this fund. And I think I hinted at this before that we were getting up there towards our threshold. We're only allowed to hold so much money in that fund. It's our average of our 3 months expenditures. So we got a notification from the state of Indiana asking us what we were going to do to bring that fund balance down. And Peggy and I responded with our plans to purchase some equipment and some other things, and we accepted it. So you'll see that balance go down over the next few months as we purchase and pay for that equipment. And then textbook rental fund, not a lot of activity over the summer. Well, actually, I lied. Quite a bit of activity. Not a lot of revenue over the summer, but we did make the large payment for the English language arts adoption. You see there, $282,000, which brought the fund balance down to just under $76,000. But I will point out that the debt service transfer up in the revenue of $119,000, we haven't made that transfer yet. So that money will come from debt service. It'll flow into the textbook rental, and that balance will go back up a little bit. And finally, our self-insurance fund. Again, this is sort of like food service. the left-hand side is 2018, and what we're actually comparing is how does this year look compared to last year. Our premiums, we're hovering right there around 50%. Lots of different reasons that could vary ever so slightly, but no surprises with the revenue. Total expenditures, you'll see that what we've paid in terms of medical insurance is down compared to 2018 quite a bit. That's great news. That means our claims are coming in lower. So as of June, we've only spent about 42% of what we spent overall in 2018. And then we began the year in the self-insurance fund at a $0 balance. If you'll recall, we transferred some monies in there to bring it to $0. And as of the end of June, we've got $236,000.
Did I carefully ask if we've resolved the risk share discussion?
We have resolved it verbally, and we're waiting to get something done.
Okay, thank you.
And then the last, Eric, if you can flip over to the last document, this is that combined report. So all I've really done is I've combined in 2019 the operations fund and the education fund, but then historically going back to 2015, I combined what was the general fund, capital projects, bus replacement and transportation, just to show a comparison between all those funds moving forward. And then the highlighted area in yellow, in 2019 at the end of June, the combined cash balance of those funds was $5.6 million. If you go back just 1 year, we were sitting at $5.1 million. So again, we've been building a balance, although I will point out that we were $1 million higher in January. So our expenditures are out. Our new expenditures as compared to 2018 is outpacing our new revenue. So we are spending more than we're bringing in year to date in those funds. Happy to answer any.
Yes, thank you for the very thorough report. Are there any questions, Mr. Newman?
Could we maybe just serve lobster and bring that fund down?
I will bring that up to Peggy.
It might only take one day.
All right. If nothing else, we'll move on to the Human Resources section of the agenda. Item 7.01, the Personnel Report. Mr. Calderon.
Good evening. President Curry, Superintendent Barker, it is recommended that the Personnel Report dated August 14, 2019 be approved as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the Personnel Report as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
It's been a busy summer.
Yeah. It's like everyone's like, you look so busy.
I would like to thank Mr. Calderoni and Dar Cochran and Barb Michaelis and Eileen Coleman and our building principals. It has been an incredibly busy summer of hiring people, and we've hired some exceptional people, and we fortunately for us, we've had some great candidates to choose from as well. I mentioned that many schools are seeing a shortage of good candidates, and we've been fortunate that people want to work here and they see a value of coming to the school city of Mishawaka, and we've been able to attract good candidates. But also like to just congratulate and thank Barb Michaelis for her work on our new teacher orientation last week. She led our team, and we had a great event last Friday. I was very proud to be a part of that. I did very little to add to it in terms of planning, but I really enjoyed the day spending with all of our new employees. We spent an entire day, and it was a great event for them. I've heard great feedback from them, and I appreciate her work to lead that for our district, so thanks to her.
All right, we'll move on. Item 7.02, Healthy Tailgate. Healthy equals healthy community. And Ms. Sanders and Ms. Sun.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us tonight. We are really here to plug our event and invite you all to come along. In January, we had a meeting where somebody said, hey, we should throw a health fair. And me, not knowing how to say no, said, let's do it. Let's throw a health fair. So between then and now, we had to come up with a date, which we planned and then realized it was the first home football game. And said, why not tie the two together? And that is how we ended up with our Healthy Tailgate equals a healthy community event. So hopefully everybody will come. It is a week from Friday before the first home football game from 4 to 7. And we're going to talk a little bit about all the exciting things that we have going on. I also wanted to introduce Erica's son. She's our new health and wellness coordinator that St. Joe has provided for us. And thank goodness she came along just in time to help get this going.
I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me. One of the things that I have to say is when I've done a health fair in other schools, I've done it in the school with the students, which is really exciting. But overall, when you look at community health and the health and well-being of our students, doing a community health fair and bringing our families in is more strategic. And so I'm really excited to be here and part of this effort.
August 23rd, 4 to 7 in the West Gym at the high school. Everybody who comes is going to get one of these beautiful bags that we gave you guys ahead of time. Everybody else, we expect you to show up to get your bag, okay?
And there'll be things happening inside the gym as well as outside the gym, which we'll touch on a little bit. But people should be able to see from the street and hopefully lure them in. Safely, right?
All right, so the goal of the health fair is to focus on your overall health and wellness. It's not working very well.
Okay. One of the offerings that we'll have is we'll have Bowling Vision there, who is one of our school city partners that's going to be doing vision screens for our students this year. They will be there doing vision screenings for the whole community, anyone of any age. We'll be able to get on their mobile unit, actually see how they'll operate when they'll come to the school and get vision screens done.
Do you have to do a deadlift to get your vision screen?
Yes, you did. Are you first?
I got
You got it? All right. So New Avenues, our EAP provider, is also going to be there talking about stress management and doing some really fun activities with that because we all need it at this time of year.
St. Joe Health will be there doing blood pressure screens as well as glucose screens and handing out a variety of resources.
Tim Williams for DARE is going to be there doing kid print IDs for our students and any other students that come in.
As well as we will have the firefighters there talking about fire safety.
Healthy snacks. Peggy is going to be there giving us some healthy snacks. I want better smiles than that. And Whole Foods is actually donating some fruit to us to hopefully use for the healthy snacks.
As well as Wholesome Package will be there sampling their coffee. So come out for the coffee. Right?
Yes, yes. And for the bag. Remember?
Yeah.
Immunizations. The health department is actually going to be out there providing immunizations for our students. The information has went out to our school nurses and secretaries and our principals to hopefully, we're kind of early in the year, but we're hoping to get an idea of those students who need that and get them the information so that they can come and get their immunizations. We're also working, after talking with Jessica Mann, about having the health department come back in 6 months to do the follow-up Hep A for the 12th grade high school students.
We'll also have a variety of kids games. We'll have a bounce house. We will have a few obstacle courses. There's a handful of other kids activities going on. The PTA will be there doing a few different games, and I think they throw a bag and they're going to win a book. So books are exciting. Plenty of games. But it is an event for people of all ages, not just young kids.
Substance abuse awareness. All right, is it PEPSA? Mm-hmm. Yes, PEPSA they were actually one of our sponsors also, and they're going to be out there doing activities and trying to raise awareness for substance abuse.
As well as St. Joe Pharmacy will be there talking about medication safety.
Mishawaka Athletics. All right, we have the swim and dive team and the cheerleaders that are going to come out there and do a booth. I believe that the cheerleaders are actually going to do some demonstrations, which should be fun. Beyond the swimming and diving team, also the feeder swim team, I cannot think of what it's called. Is it the Sharks?
Stars.
Yeah, the Sharks will also be there with a booth.
Stars.
The Stars. The Sharks will not be there. No Sharks.
The stars. And the cheerleaders are going to be doing face painting for us as well. And elementary athletics will be represented at the PTA meeting.
And much more. We actually are going to also have. I know, right? There will be a photo booth. I'm sorry. The photography students are going to put on a photo booth for us. So we're going to do that. What else do we have going on?
There'll be hands-only CPR, boxercise will be out there. A little bit of, not all of it's on our flyer. Dental, HRI dental will be there. They're giving away toothbrushes.
Tobacco awareness.
Tobacco awareness will be there. We'll have everything. Just come.
We have 40 different booths. And we're taking attendance. We're taking attendance. So, you know, you should all be there. There will also be door prizes.
Yes, there will be.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank
Sponsors,
you.
wait. Sponsors.
I lied. I'm sorry. Special thanks to our sponsors.
Especially the Education Foundation, who gave us $1,000.
Yes,
So,
our biggest contribution.
yes. So, thank you guys for having us.
Well, thank you. This is terrific. Moving into the curriculum, instruction, and technology section of the agenda, item 8.01, update on two out-of-district recommendation for 2019-2020. Ms. Shako?
Mr. President? Okay, so that's it. It's never quite right for me. Although this one is better than Hums was. That one was really high last time, so I really had to reach for that one. Mr. Barker and I, since he has arrived here at School City of Mishawaka, have talked a bit about being able to bring in as many students and enroll as many students as we can within School City of Mishawaka to offer opportunities to as many students as we can for successful education. So just very quickly, since we're going to be talking a little bit here about enrollment of students, I kind of wanted to go over School City of Mishawaka's mission when it comes to education of students. So together we will equip our students with the knowledge, skills, and character necessary to excel in a dynamic and evolving world. We look to provide academic excellence that promotes personal best, parental involvement, and teacher quality with a nurturing and safe environment, high expectations for students
and staff that leads to high performance, a student-centered positive learning environment that shapes responsible, respectful, and productive citizens, an innovative culture that encourages creative and critical thinking, and teamwork through collaboration among students, parents, colleagues, and the community. And I think those of you who have been to a lot of school board meetings continually see that we are promoting those things for our schools and for our students. So, we are not moving through. Thank you, sir. All right, so open enrollment for 2019 and 2020 school year. So transfer students, for those of you who are unfamiliar with what a transfer student actually is and what that means, under Indiana Code, a transfer student is a student who maintains permanent residence outside of the boundaries of the school district of where they are enrolled. School City of Mishawaka open enrollment for transfer students for the 2019-2020 academic year was determined and voted on at the February 27th school board meeting. Allotted space per grade level was determined based on projected enrollment numbers for the upcoming school year, and a formula using those projected enrollment numbers is reviewed to establish space available for non-resident students. A time frame was determined based upon historical data of requests, as well as ADM day, which is our average daily membership count day. So while looking to maintain desired class sizes, it was determined at that February 27th school board meeting that School City of Mishawaka had openings for 275 K through 6 transfer students, 14 middle school, 7 and 8 grade transfer students, and 115 high school, 9 through 12. This was a total of 404 openings for non-resident students. The dates at which to accept the request for transfer students for the 1920 year would be March 1st through March 29th. After initial placement of those students, we would continue then accepting those transfer students through September 13th, which is actually that first ADM average daily membership count day for the state of Indiana, as long as there were openings within that grade level that they were requesting. A board approval at that time allowed us to move forward with this plan of, again, accepting transfer students into the School City of Mishawaka District. So establishing enrollment through the academic year. As school districts move through a calendar year, enrollment will continually fluctuate. So you have students who are moving into the district, students who are relocating out of the district, so on and so forth. We at School City of Mishawaka are no different and typically see a loss in students as we move through the year. This change in enrollment allows School City of Mishawaka to open its doors to more transfer students wanting to join the Mishawaka family. School City of Mishawaka consistently looks to create a successful learning environment, if I can say that word today, for as many students as possible while maintaining balanced classroom sizes. In previous years, School City of Mishawaka has closed their open enrollment of those transfer students on or near that first ADM count day in September. However, the state of Indiana has made a recent change in regard to that ADM count day, starting with this coming school year for 1920. We will now see 2 ADM count days, one on September 13th and then again in mid-February of 2020. So having a school year then with open enrollment space allows School City of Mishawaka to open its doors to more transfer students. Consistently as we look, do I have a double slide in there? I do not. Well, that's interesting. We got a separate paragraph in there. It must have been when I sent it through. Sorry about that, guys. So I'm going to move through. It's not wanting to move forward now. There it goes. Thank you. Did you do that for me? I appreciate that. It's just not wanting to click. I'm sure it's me. So having that school year with open enrollment space allows School City of Mishawaka again to open its doors to more transfer students while we consistently look to create successful learning environment for as many students as possible while maintaining again those balanced classroom sizes. To negate the loss of those students, we look to continue to fill classrooms with students and parents looking for academic success with School City of Mishawaka. We recommend the following to the school board. We ask the Board of School Trustees to officially open an unfixed number in all grade levels, K through 12, for open enrollment during the 1920 school year. We also recommend the board continue to accept transfer students for the remainder of the 1920 school year as long as openings are available within the grade level requested. Are there any questions?
No, you're very thorough with that.
Well, thank you.
I think that makes sense.
Okay, wonderful.
Are there any questions or comments?
I have a comment. I'm really actually excited about this.
Okay.
I don't know
Yay.
how many other people know, but I actually transferred to Mishawaka as a sophomore, like 45 seconds before the first day of school my sophomore year.
We have a lot of that going on
Jerome
right now.
was still assistant principal there. And I really flourished at Mishawaka. I came from John Adams. I went through South End schools my whole career, came to Mishawaka, I flourished, and here I am, sitting on the Board of Trustees. So I have complete faith in our transfer students, just as much as I do in our students that are born and bred here in Mishawaka, so I'm really excited.
Thank you. We just really want to create that environment for as many students as possible for a successful education. And so you have been a huge lead in that, pushing forward into this, that you have that, seem to have that same feeling, that we just want to open those doors to as many students as we possibly can to give them those opportunities. So I did not realize that you had transferred in, so that's awesome.
Yep, me and my little brother transferred in.
Well, I will tell you, we have transferred in 235 non-resident students so far for the 1920 school year. So
where does that stand
excited.
compared to last year at this time?
It's pretty close. So right around last year at this time, I would say we were right around 250 within those numbers. So it is really close. We had, unfortunately, I had to be out of the office yesterday, and Sarah and Heidi were so amazing in keeping up with everything that was going on, and I said, they're going to come in. I know it's the day before school, but they're going to come in. They're going to want to transfer with us. And so I believe we had 19 just yesterday that said, we want to be a part of School City of Mishawaka. And so they got it done, which was amazing. And the majority of those kiddos even started today within classrooms. So, I mean, it has just really ramped up. The closer that we've gotten to the school year, the more non-resident students who have been applying and coming to us, getting approved and getting in those classrooms. So it's really exciting, and I'm excited to bring in more and see where we can go with it. So, okay.
I want to thank Ms. Shaiko. She's done an incredible job of leading this for us. She has a great understanding of the law, but more than that, she has a great heart for parents and students when they come into our building and want to enroll. That can be a traumatic time for parents when they want to do those things, and she has a great way of calming them and making them feel welcome, and we're very fortunate to have her leading this for us, and fully support the recommendation.
Thank you for that.
On that note, I move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving into business and operations, item 9.01, acceptance of donations. Mr. Barker?
Yes, we have a donation from Mr. Scott Taylor in the amount of $225 to the Hums Elementary School Library and Student Activities Fund. So I would recommend approval with much appreciation for that donation.
Move for approval.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to accept the donation. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And with our appreciation to Mr. Taylor. Item 9.02, School City of Mishawaka 2020 budget calendar. Mr. Newman?
Thank you, President Curry. Just wanted to bring the proposed budget calendar in front of the school board. I won't read through the entire thing, but the main dates, September 11th, we'll hold the budget workshop and we'll review the 2020 education and operating funds in addition to the referendum operating fund and our debt service funds. Then on September 25th, we'll hold a public hearing. And then, if all goes well, on October 9th, the proposed 2020 budgets for those funds will be adopted by the board. So I just wanted to bring this in front of the board as an informational item tonight.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move into item 9.03, a recommendation to approve annual renewal of professional services agreement with Chris Curry. I have a conflict disclosure statement to file with respect to this. Chris is my wife, so of course anything that she received under this contract would be compensation that would come to our family, which requires me to state this as a disclosure, to file the state's Uniform Conflict of Interest Disclosure Statement, which I will do right now. And because of this, I am unable to vote on this and will not even be the one who presents it. But before it can be presented, the board needs to act to accept or reject my submission of the conflict statement.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay.
Any discussion? The recommendation has been made that the Board of School Trustees approve the renewal agreement with Chris Curry as a document. It's been presented and seconded. Is there any discussion on the item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And let the record note that I abstained from that vote. And now we move on to the contract.
Barker, Mr. Curry, President of the Board and board members. I bring to you tonight a renewal contract for Chris Curry for professional services in our Department of Exceptional Learners. We have 3 full-time school psychologists who do all the assessments, evaluations, conferencing for students who may or may not qualify for students with disabilities. So at certain times of the year, around our fiscal count of December 1, sometimes at move-in time, sometimes in the spring, we have an overflow of work that's in excess of what our 3 full-time school psychologists can handle on their caseload and be contributing members to the teams that they're building. So Chris Curry is a retired Salpin Community School Corporation school psychologist, and this is the 2nd year that she's been doing some contract work for us, doing some evaluations and providing some professional development. So the recommendation would be that We retain Chris Curry, a retired school psychologist, to work with School City of Mishawaka, and we will compensate Mrs. Curry at a rate of $50 for attendance at case conference meetings only, and $400 per evaluation from the beginning of the evaluation process to the end.
Move for approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Now opposed, I presume.
And let the record show I abstained from that vote, please. Thank you. We'll go on to item then 9.04, a recommendation to approve annual renewal of professional services agreement with Steve Horvath. Mrs. Michaelos?
So this is the same agreement that we just discussed about Chris Curry. Steve Horvath used to actually be a School City of Mishawaka school psychologist for a number of years, and I think he has been on contract since about 2015, I think, when we split the co-op. So again, at overflow times, when we had number of cases that exceed the number of work potential for our employees, we would like to, at the same rate of $50 for attendance at case conference meetings and $400 per case, beginning to end. He also sits as a school psychologist at all of our case conferences at our Oak Lawn campus program. So a lot of kids move in with eligibility. Some of them are evaluated. So we don't actually do the testing, but he is the person by law that has to attend that conference. So he attends a lot of those conferences during the school year.
Move for approval.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the contract with Mr. Horvath. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 9.05, a recommendation to approve annual renewal of the Memorandum of Understanding with the Mishawaka Parks and Recreation.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. And did you know how frugal Barb and I are with public funds? We copy one and we're sharing it. We're conscientious of every penny we spend of any kind of public funds. I am bringing to you the annual renewal of our contract with the Mishawaka Park Department. We are entering into our third year of our young adult program, being housed at the Battelle Center. Our young adult program is a legally mandated program for students ages 18 through 22 who exit high school with certificates of completion. So these are students with disabilities. It has been a wonderful experience. We pay the park department $500 a month for 10 months of the year, but we have a very synergistic relationship with the park department. There's always some new partnership that we're undertaking, and they allow us actually in all summer long. Our students deliver Meals on Wheels every Tuesday, and so we're based out of there. Some of the students receive pre-employment transition services all summer long, and they let us have that as a home base as well. So it has far exceeded what we thought we would have going there, and has been mutually beneficial. We have a committee of students who are meeting with Phil Blasco, the superintendent, and park staff to determine which events we will partner with them this year. They do a lot of legwork and prep for park department events, and we've had kids employed by the park department. So it's just been a wonderful event, and it's my recommendation we continue that partnership with the park department.
We have developed an excellent relationship with the park department, and it's just phenomenal what is going on between School City and the park department.
I agree.
And this included.
It's like the really good stuff. I mean, walking in there today, I hope anybody who wants to go, let me know and we'll arrange for you to walk in. There are students that aren't always, they're a little apprehensive if big groups of people would walk in there, but I would love to take you if you ever want to go.
I'm going to move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve renewal of the contract. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 9.06, recommendation to approve annual renewal of agreement with the Elkhart Area Career Center for the 2019-2020 school year. Mr. Newman?
Thank you, President Curry. This is an annual agreement that we renew every year between School City Mishawaka and the Elkhart Area Career Center. This is for occupational or vocational training. It enables students from Mishawaka High School to attend the Career Center on a full or partial day basis. This agreement would run through June 30 of 2020. The basic way that the cost is determined is essentially the Elkhart Area Career Center tracks all their expenses to run the program. They net out the state and federal monies that they receive. They then divide the remaining amount amongst all the participating students, and then they bill us accordingly. So every year we start out with an estimated bill that we pay throughout the year, and then we get a final bill. So I'm actually expecting our final bill from 18-19 probably in the next couple weeks. I don't have it in front of me. If I were to guess, I believe that the amount per student has hovered around $4,600, but I do have that document, David, and I could share it with you. In terms of the number of students attending this year, I haven't seen that information yet, but perhaps Mr. Ross, about 80? About 80, and I think we had about 75 last year. So, and that ebbs and flows. I looked at that last year. I went back, I think, 6 years, and it goes up, it goes down. It just kind of depends on the year.
Alex, if we did not participate with them, what would be the alternative?
The alternative is we would have, if we wanted to provide that sort of a vocational program, we would have to develop it, fund it, find a space for it, and do it all on our own, within our own school.
And I know that would be, I mean, hypothetically,
Be tremendously costly.
more expensive than this contract.
Absolutely. In fact, we wouldn't even have room to do it. We would have to build an entire new building to even support something like that.
Do we know what the graduating rate out of the Career Center is? Or, Mr. Ross, do you know? Absolutely.
So and the math is about right, because it shifts a little bit. All right, so we basically are probably collecting, since they're going there half the time, that means we need 2 teachers in a high school because we're outsourcing 80 kids half a day to them. So that means, roughly speaking, $3,000 worth of ADM per student, right? Okay. Plus, based on the program and the number of credits there are, most of them are 3 credits, we're getting about another 2,000 in CTE funding. All right, so that means we're getting about 5,000 a kid, which at this point in time, we're actually making a bit of money on it. Now, in other years, we've actually lost a bit of money on it, but it's, it's in the ballpark. All right, so that's one thing you should be familiar with. The other aspect, and as Alex has already touched on, is that, we're not going to have an automotive repair program at Mishawaka High School. We send a couple of kids to do that any given year. And other sending schools, and there are a great number of sending schools that go to the Career Center, send enough kids there so that together, by having them all pooled in that fashion, they can run a credible, worthwhile program. So our ability to run those kind of programs just isn't happening. Now, having said that, and as many of you have already been briefed on, with the graduation pathway approach, which is mandatory for this year's freshman class, a CTE pathway is an important option that allows a kid to choose something they're interested in and be able to qualify for graduation at the end of 4 years. With that said, we offer in-house about 20, which is a non-trivial number, okay? But they offer probably another 20 or so, or 30 even, that we don't offer. All right, so it's giving more kids options on a way to get career specialized. And I think the most immediate question was, how many kids that go to the Career Center graduate? All right, virtually all of them, in fact, successfully graduate. Mr. Strom had said something about, well, how many of them are getting tech honors? Almost none of them are getting tech honors. Why, John? Why is that the case? Here's why. Okay. Honors diploma requirements are not profound. It's basically a 440 and a CTE completer pathway, but you also have to have a 3.0 GPA overall, and you have to have a C average in all of the CTE classes. All right, so it doesn't take much for a kid to end up with a 2.8, a 2.9, so they don't get the tech honors diploma. Also, in most cases, the counseling team focuses more on getting kids to take a little bit more math, some foreign language, and get an academic honors diploma, as opposed to a tech. I think we're at this point in time, really as a country, where we don't need to have 80% of a high school graduating class go to college. We need about 30 or 40% go do that, And the bulk of the rest of them need to get skills that might also include some community college to go out and be a tradesman and make a buck for a living, okay? So our whole approach, especially as we evolve into this, CTE pathway is a real quality way to get graduation qualifications, means that we're going to put a little bit more focus on that, and part of our school goal is to have more kids getting tech honors because it should be achievable, all right? Our overall academic honors diploma rate is about, 20, 25%, it varies, year to year, but it's an okay number. It's not a great number, okay? I think if we press this and press it hard, because the average GPA for most of the cohorts is around 2.7. Well, that means 50% of them, roughly speaking, are above 2.7. If we do a little bit more work to improve that to where we've got more kids getting a 3.0, we're going to see more tech honors diploma, because you don't have to take a fourth year math and you don't have to take a foreign language.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
I just would like to say that, this begs, I think, further discussion. I remember my daughter was at Bigger Junior High, and she took a shop class. We don't do that anymore. We're focused on getting, the parents are focused, and so is everybody else, on getting 100% of the students into college. I remember coming home from work one day, and my daughter, from what she had learned at shop class, had dismantled every bicycle in my garage. She didn't know how to put them back together again, but it was fun working with her to do that. We don't have that anymore, and I think it's important.
I'd just like to, I probably mentioned this before, I was listening to a consortium of educators and economists. And at one point, the educators asked the economist, what percentage of skills, jobs, professions, guilds require a college degree in the United States? And almost to a one, they said about 25%, which means 75% of the jobs, occupations out there are not college-bound jobs. And to keep ourselves in line with producing students that are going to be productive in our society, we have to keep our minds open to providing these type of services.
I completely agree with you. I look at the relationship I have with my younger brother. So I was always destined to go to college. I'm very much an accountant through and through, always have been. But my brother is a mechanic, and he was so distraught about telling me he wasn't going to go to college, because here I was, went to college, I'm very passionate about accounting, and he's like, that's just not for me. But he was doing brake jobs when he was 8. I'm like, no, that's what you need to do. Like, you were born to be a mechanic, and you can still make a good living as a mechanic, and you can still have a respectable career. You don't have to go to college to do that, but you can be a productive citizen as a tradesman. And I think that is an important mind shift that we need to have. I'd rather have a competent mechanic than have a waitress that has $150,000 in student debt.
I got nothing.
This is a great discussion, because that comes back to, I know, Wayne, you talk about one of the things that we seldom ask in education is the why. Why do we do what we do? And we can get lost in the forest and the weeds of the what, where, how, when, and but not the why. And the why is to help the students under our care become successful, competent, well-functioning, well-adjusted adults who are able to look out for themselves. And if the curriculum becomes misaligned to accomplishing that goal, within the economy and the society that we have, then those are very serious issues and things that we need to be talking about. So this is a really good discussion. And the Career Center provides a really valuable service. And Mr. Ross, you did a really great job of explaining how it can provide that in a way that the individual schools, feeder schools to the Career Center are unable to do, without a huge investment of resources that might serve, in like the case of Auto Shop for our students, 2 people, and it just wouldn't be possible to provide that kind of quality program, with that kind for that. But when we all work together, and rather than try to do everything separately and on our own, and working together is one of the things that is so good about the Career Center. We're able to accomplish a lot more than we are just on our own. So it's been a great partnership.
Could I add one thing, President Curry?
Yes, please.
Several years ago, when I was at a CTE meeting with them, because all of the member schools will have meetings with them. What can we do better? And one of the things I threw out there, this is about 10 years ago, I suggested, look, we need to have a program where you're not just looking at all the kids we're recommending come there and then you pick the cream of the crop. You need to pick a broader cross-section. You need to provide counseling services for those kids that are a little edgy, but this may be what saves them to be a productive, person for themselves and for the community. And, it's not been 100% successful, but every time one of those kids that would have not only been accepted to their Career Center successfully graduates, then that's a victory. And we've had a number of those kids that would have not otherwise been able to go that have been going in these last few years, and many of them have made it. And again, that's every time it's a victory.
Thank you. That's how true.
More discussion before we have a vote. All right, it's been recommended that the Board of School Trustees approve the agreement with the Elkhart Career Center as presented.
Move for a motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agreement. Is there any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 9.07, recommendation to approve an increase in elementary school athletic fees. Mr. Huppert?
President Curry and Mr. Barker and school board members, I'd like you to consider an increase in our activity for elementary athletics. It's been $10 for as long as everybody can remember, and it's nice because it gives everybody a chance to play for their school. But last year we spent over $17,000 on officials, uniforms, and miscellaneous expenses. The PTA does help, and they give us $10,000 since they take care of the gate and concessions. But at the end of the day, we cleared less than $200 in athletics, so we're cutting it close. Now, while we're in elementary athletics to give experiences and not make big money, we came close to losing money for the second straight year. So I would like to increase the price for the activity fee from $10 to $15. And thinking about we pay $7 for T-shirts, for the kids for uniforms, it's a great bargain. If we raise the elementary activity fee, still girls basketball, boys basketball, track, volleyball, and wrestling, we'll keep in mind that they're playing 6 to 8 weeks. They've got quality coaches. We're using IHSAA officials in all sports fit volleyball. And we do have a postseason tournament with awards and ribbons. And we do need to keep in mind that we give scholarships for kids that can't afford that. And those scholarships, their activity fee is waived. And not in an embarrassing way, but the coaches pull people aside on the side and let them play for free. And this year in our sponsorships, as we were going out, Jordan Automotive actually wanted to use their money in a different way instead of just buying ads. And we said, well, we have activity fees that don't get paid in high school and also elementary activity fees. So they gave us $1,500 that will help in those activity fees. And they'll also get on the video board and some other things. So we wanted to see if we could consider raising that fee from $10 to $15.
Well, considering the T-shirts cost $7, they get that, and then they 8 weeks of 6 to 8 weeks. That's sort of $1 a week. It's not much.
Not much at all.
Still sounds like a pretty good bargain. Are there any questions for Mr. Hubbard? If not, is there a motion to accept the recommendation?
Move for a motion.
Second.
So moved and seconded to approve the fee increase as requested from $10 to $15. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
If it's okay with you, I just wanted to mention one other thing that was exciting that just came about in the last couple of days. But our last permanent sign, a 6-foot by 6-foot sign that goes on the video scoreboard, was sold, and we sold that to Bethel College. And so for the Bethel University, they're trying to increase their branding, and they wanted to pay $4,000 the first year, which is fair since we've already missed a couple months of this year, and then $5,000 in the next 2 years. And so with that, not only comes the sponsorship where they'll get a program ad and they'll get a billboard ad and the permanent ad and a commercial, but they would like to give us and give our student athletes at the high school level a free pass to get into any Bethel University athletic event. So
Wow.
all of our students have to show their ID at the high school level. They show their ID and they can go to any Bethel University game.
That's a
So-
terrific deal.
Yeah, so just wanted to give you that information. The sign has been ordered, and we put it, and we're going to be putting it up here in the next couple of days, so it'll be there by the first football game.
Mr. Hubbard's done an excellent job fundraising dollars with this sign. I believe now that fills the sign.
It does.
I'm
It
sorry,
fills the
the scoreboard, and so that generates a lot of revenue for us. So, well done, Mr. Hubbard.
Well, thank you, thank you. And I have to give Bruce Quick a lot of credit, too. We've done a lot of work this summer, and we just actually put our program to bed today, and last year we had 60 ads in the program. This year we're going to have 70.
And we're passing the programs out for free.
We are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Unless you want to pay, you can donate to the
No, I mean, the marketing, your marketing intern set the record straight last year.
Yeah, we did. Yep, we're going to give them out for free, and who knows, maybe there'll be a free raffle ticket for the Grand Design RV.
There
too.
won't be. Sorry.
All right. Moving on, item 9.08, a recommendation to approve an independent consulting agreement with Spiker and Fields and Associates, Inc. Mr. Barker.
As has been the practice the past 4 years, we would like to utilize an agreement with an experienced former School City of Mishawaka senior leadership person, in this case Dr. Dean Spiker, to assist with the following vision initiatives, plus any other services requested either by me or the Board of School Trustees. These all revolve around areas of community engagement, which obviously is a strength of Dr. Spiker. The first item would be to set up appointments with Dr. Spiker, myself, and key community influencers. Just so you know, this has been happening pretty much every week, at least once a week, since I started here officially on July 1st. Those meetings have gone well, and I've enjoyed meeting different people here in the community that work for and with as partners to School City of Mishawaka. Also to serve as counsel to the superintendent on specific projects. In this case, mainly doing a lot of work. As you know, Dr. Spiker has great relationships with people and has generated a lot of money through donations, and that would be something he would continue to work on. Also, in the development and execution of the School City of Mishawaka Facility Continuous Improvement Plan. In this case, right now directly working with us on the Mishawaka High School Traffic Safety Plan. Assisting the Superintendent Board of School Trustees in the execution and management of the School City of Mishawaka and St. Joseph Health System Partnership. Assisting the Superintendent in the management and execution of the Community Accountability Committee. And any other mutually acceptable services requested either by myself or the board. So that is the recommendation to approve the consulting agreement with Spiker Fields and Associates.
I'd like to make one comment. I certainly enjoy the idea that we want to do this, and I want to pursue it, and I think we should. However, I think that David brought up some valid points. I spend a lot of my day working with contracts with our businesses, and I sat back, after I read this, I said, all of my contracts are for a year, and it gives me the ability to revisit them each year. We don't have an end point here, and I think this is a valid point.
Well, and actually, we do have an endpoint here.
Well, we
because
do.
This is an open end. This is not a contract in perpetuity. This is a contract that can be ended, terminated upon 2 months' notice by either party.
That's
so
right.
Actually, what we have here is more like a month-to-month lease that rolls over unless it's terminated. So the opportunity to go in, if you had it for a year, you're locked. Both parties are locked in for a year. when you have a contract of this sort, if if Mr. Barker feels that we've gotten our full value out of this after 8 months, we can terminate it.
You can
We're not
still-
locked in for a year, which gives us a window of just 2 months in
Dick,
terms of advance notice.
Dick, you
in
can
order to
still have a
renegotiate.
contract for 12 months with a 60-day cancellation. I have those in all my contracts, where each year you renew that contract.
But the 60-day cancellation in most contracts is 60 days before the termination of the contract, which still gives you a 12-month contract. You know, I think actually what we have here is where the negotiating power and the power in the contract is on the side of the school corporation rather than on the independent contractor. You know, if I were the independent contractor, I'd rather have a 1-year contract that's terminable upon 60 days advance notice, because you're locked into a more specific period and you can guarantee that more. Here we have something that's more up to the discretion of the school corporation.
We can agree to disagree.
Okay, I think we will. And as far as the metrics, what Dr. Barker's or what Dr. Spiker's business brings. So these are in the area of soft skills. It's relationships, meeting people. They aren't things that it's not like being able to say we want to be able to turn out 100 widgets every hour. I mean, it's not that kind of measurable. And again, so the whether it's working or not for the school corporation depends on whether or not we think it's working for the school corporation, which again puts the power back in the school corporation rather than in Spiker Fields, because if we're not satisfied, we're not satisfied. But there isn't sort of a specific metric other than the one that we decide whether it's suiting our needs. So I think that's really something that works to our advantage rather than the contractor's advantage. And finally, in terms of whether or not it allows Dr. Spiker to contract, we're contracting out inherently governmental functions. Actually, what we're doing is we're getting consulting advice, which is what we do on any kind of a consulting agreement. Any sort of final action has to be taken by the board. So nothing that binds the organization can happen on the end of the contractor. It's in those items that you had pointed out, Mr. Strawn, in your questioning. What they're doing is providing consulting and recommendation type of services rather than making decisions on our behalf.
I think that having Dr. Spiker available for Wayne is a necessity. He was a necessity for me to go to Grand Design. He went with me to the meeting. Luckily enough, he was the superintendent of PHM, and which is where Don Clark went to high school, and they did a whole bow down thing. So, you know, those relationships or people's awareness of who he is has benefited School City of Mishawaka through the last 3 years. I think it can only benefit Mr. Barker as he ventures out and meets our community members that are going to be giving the money. So the fact that we can terminate it month to month if it isn't working, it's going to be validated if he's not bringing the people to Mr. Barker and we're not getting the donations, then we don't need Dr. Spiker, and we're done with it, right? So I think it's a very black and white agreement, and I don't see why or conflict in it whatsoever if Dr. Spiker is delivering good contact information to Mr. Barker. So.
Let me read a paragraph from section 3, and it says term. This agreement shall commence on or about October 14th, 2019, and shall continue in full force in effect until on or about October 15, 2020, unless terminated in accordance with the terms of this agreement prior to said date. That is the wording of the agreement for professional services that we just voted on. Why is this different than that?
Well, I would think it's because for, you're talking about those, like the
Steve
contract
Horvath.
with
We just
Steve
voted on
Horvath.
it for Steve Horvath, and I'm reading right out of the agreement that we just voted on.
Yes. Well, I think it's different because what we want from Dr. Spiker is more open-ended. We don't know that it's going to take a year. It might take less than a year. It's as long as it takes to do the job. And we're the ones who are, the way the contract is written, it allows us to determine when the job's been done, rather than locking us into a specific termination date. That's how.
Dick, I'm not buying
it.
I don't buy it. I think if we're writing contracts for individuals, and again, I'm looking at this as just a contract. I'm not looking at the individual. I think the relationship we've had for the last several years with Dean has been excellent, and I certainly want him here. But I think we need to be consistent in our approach with our contracts, and we're not.
So are you saying that we should write a contract for a year then?
I think it gives the appearance of whatever.
Well, I think different contracts for different types of services that are presented require. I think there's room for differences in the terminology, in the terms of the contracts.
Well, and again, I think
we agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree.
Is there any other discussion?
Can we address the comment of generally contracts in perpetuity are against public policy? There is no stated end date. I mean.
But it isn't a contract in perpetuity. It's like a month-to-month lease that continues to go. It continues until you give notice of termination, and it has a 2-month termination. So I don't consider this a contract in perpetuity. And I'm not aware that it's. I'm not aware also that this type of a contract is against public policy.
So is there room to interpret it as a contract in perpetuity? Because now you have two people that are reading it and considering it as one, and I understand like you're the attorney on the board, but I'm just trying to understand if there is room for interpretation that it would be.
Well, I would say a contract in perpetuity would not have this sort of an escape clause in it, or giving it up to us at our discretion whenever we choose to give 2 months' notice.
Since we're having this discussion regarding this issue, is there a compromise of language that can be added to this agreement that meets what everyone wants? And then obviously that would require us going back to Dr. Spiker to make sure that he's also agreeing to this, but it would be then what we would offer to him. But I don't know what that is between Mr. Pemberton, what you're asking for, and what Mr. Curry's asking.
The phrase that I read from the previous agreement were added to this, I think it would be sufficient. And I think we should be consistent with what we're doing on all of our personal services agreements, consistent in how we put the contract together or the agreement together.
So we don't vote on it, we edit it and.
Well, we couldn't vote on it tonight. I mean, if that's what we wanted to do, is to change the terms. What we could do is we would indicate that we would approve subject to, but I think one of the issues would be if we were to do that, we would still, I think it would be important to keep the opportunity for early termination.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Give either party the ability with 60 days notice to cancel the contract, but set a term on the contract of 12 months, which is exactly what we did with Mr. Horvath on 9.04.
I think that works more to the independent contractor's advantage than the school system's advantage. But
not if either party has a 60-day notice.
Well, but it's more open. But the fact is that under this, if we took more than 12 months, then you can go more than 12, but you can go 13 months. But you would then, if you wanted to go beyond 12 months from now, you'd have to enter into a new contract.
So?
It forces you to do that. It forces you to put an endpoint on this thing and then re-examine it after a certain period of time. It makes it easier on the superintendent so that he doesn't feel that he has to automatically or continue this thing on forever and ever and ever, and he knows that this thing ends after 12 months and I've got to go back to the board. And, you know, maybe Spiker Fields will want more money because of what he's doing. I don't know.
Yeah, that's always a possibility,
That's
too.
right.
You open it up for compensation. Well, are you making a motion?
I would move that we
Table it.
table this until the next meeting and give Mr. Barker the ability to have further discussion with Dean Spiker.
Second.
Okay, just, I'm writing this down. All right, it's been moved by Mr. Pemberton to table this with a request to have this be renegotiated to have a definite end date with a...
And it's not an indefinite table, it's a table until the next school board meeting.
Okay. With a definite end date and an early termination option for each party.
Which is already in the contract.
Okay.
I'm just asking that you add one clause, which is in Mr. Horvath's agreement.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay. In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried. All right. Some work to do.
Okay. I think Dr. Spiker and I can work out that agreement, and I think
Yeah,
he will look at this discussion and see that there was support for him to be here, and we can work out the requirements as stated here.
I understand what Bill is saying, but it's to me it's kind of a semantical thing. It's a legal semantical thing. Are you going to have an end date in the contract, but then you renew it, or are you going to it's half a dozen of one and six of the other?
I just feel we need to be consistent in our approach to what we're doing, number one. Number two, it projects a sense that we are doing our job.
Yeah. I don't think it really changes the contract any, but
No.
I agree with
No.
you. It's
It's a good
It's staying
business practice.
consistent.
All right. Okay. And we'll move on then to item 9.09, recommendation to approve a change order with R. Yoder Construction. Mr. Newman.
Thank you, President Curry. If you recall, at the April 10th, 2018 board meeting, R. Yoder Construction was awarded the door and door hardware project in the amount of $2,145,300. This evening, the administration is seeking approval of a change order request in the amount of $55,994. The change order request includes a great number of doors and/or door hardware that was not included in the original bid, and these additional doors and hardware are necessary to complete the project. Funds are available from that same 2018 first mortgage bond sale that we did to cover the costs. I don't think I included it, but I do have the listing of all the doors and the hardware that we are in need of if the board would like to take a look. But I'm asking for approval of this change order with R. Yoder in the amount of $55,994.
With the missing of the doors that we didn't include in the original, is that Hums is getting doors now, or what is that?
These are all doors at Mishawaka High School.
Okay, so we just missed all those doors.
Missed them or spec'd the wrong hardware or spec'd the wrong door or
Okay.
some combination thereof.
All right. Very good. Move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 9.10, recommendation to approve agreement for professional services with Avonmarsh Consultants for the Mishawaka High School Traffic Safety Plan. Mr. Newman?
Thank you, President Curry. I want to start off by saying, David, I was not taught how to write cursive, so I was not able to write your questions down quick enough. But if I get a copy of them, I'll be happy to get you answers to all your questions later on.
We'll trade documents after the
Okay,
meeting, okay?
very good. At the January 9th, 2019 board meeting, a professional services agreement was approved with Avonmarsh Consultants to provide the preliminary work related to vehicular and pedestrian traffic flow around Mishawaka High School. The scope of that original agreement included preliminary investigation, analysis of existing conditions, and then the identification of potential solutions. Avonmarsh performed this work and provided multiple options to School City of Mishawaka senior leadership for consideration. The selected option was then presented to the Board of School Trustees on May 22nd, and a neighborhood meeting was held on June 27th at Mishawaka High School to gather input from community members. For board approval this evening is a professional service agreement, again with Avonmarsh, for the design, bidding, and construction phase services for the site improvement project at Mishawaka High School. The site improvements will follow the conceptual layout as previously presented to the board on May 22nd. And it also includes the design and architectural services for the construction of an interior security vestibule at the west entrance of Mishawaka High School. The estimated timeline and detailed scope of services has been provided in the attached proposal for a total amount of $229,700. With board approval of this item this evening, senior leadership will begin discussions with our financial advisor and bond counsel as it relates to a bond sale in early 2020. The proceeds of that sale would be used to fund the site improvements at Mishawaka High School, including the professional services from Avonmarsh that are being proposed this evening. Our plan is for agreements for financial advisor and bond counsel to come before the board in September, pending your approval this evening. Daryl Knipp from Avonmarsh Consultants is with us this evening. He can answer any questions that the board may have, but we are asking for approval of this agreement as presented.
Alex, prior to the referendum, the board passed a resolution that set the rules and guidelines for managing the bidding process as it pertained to, I guess, calling out those contractors that were not didn't have the necessary resources. I'm trying to go from memory. This goes back 3 or 4 or 5 years ago when we put this, 4 years ago, 3 years ago when we put this together.
Okay.
We spent a lot of time on it. We had some issues initially, I think, when there was a changeover between you and Bruce.
Yes.
But we're taking that into account. I mean, Schmidt had forgotten or lost sight of it, and in the transition we lost it. And I know I started to get some phone calls from several unions in the area.
Mm-hmm.
We have that near us, right?
Yes, I recall exactly what you're talking about, and I recall the contents of the resolution.
Okay.
And I will be sure to review that with Avonmarsh so that they know and that we're all on the same page moving forward. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that we're going to be going back to the community at some point for another referendum. And it's important that we continue to live up to what we had agreed to prior to the last referendum.
I agree.
Anything else? Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
I move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to recommend approval of the professional services agreement as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Down to the final item on the agenda, public announcements, item 11.01. The community is invited to attend the Healthy Tailgate equals Healthy Community event on Friday, August 23rd, 2019, beginning at 4 p.m. The event will be held at Mishawaka High School in the West Gym prior to the first home varsity football game. The next regular meeting of the Board of School Trustees will be held on September 11, 2019, beginning at 7 p.m. in the Administrative Center, 1402 South Main Street, Mishawaka, Indiana. Is there anything else to come before the board? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Wayne.